Unsurprisingly, there are numerous Easter eggs and references to other Star Wars stories peppered throughout The Mandalorian's 4th episode titled Sanctuary. And I'm here to show you the most interesting ones the show has to offer with 10 tiny details you may have missed in The Mandalorian Episode 4.
Do me the honor of joining my brothers and sisters in the great clan.
Been waiting my whole life for this. I'm honored.
Your life's just begun. Make it one no one will forget.
The term foundlings was first mentioned in Chapter 1 of the Mandalorian series, and ever since we have had theories and speculation regarding what the foundlings actually are. Finally, with Chapter 4, we have confirmed what many suspected, that foundlings are children not born of Mandalorian bloodlines who are adopted into clans and bestowed with the Mandalorian identity. When asked why he didn't remove his helmet, the Mandalorian responds, "I was happy that they took me in. My parents were killed, and the Mandalorians took care of me. This is the way." Longtime fans will likely know that the term foundling is a new word from an old concept, a concept practiced by the EU Mandalorians of Legends. As discussed in a previous video, the Mandalorians of Legends would often adopt orphans into their ranks and offer them a new identity and a family among the Mandalorians. Sometimes this ritual was even extended to worthy adversaries, who the Mandalorians saw as worthy to wear their armor. This line not only officially canonizes the concept and reinforces the Mandalorian value of family and parenthood, but also just how pivotal their armor is to their identity and culture.
This armor is part of our identity. It makes us Mandalorians who we are.
In the 4th chapter of the show, we see the Mandalorian activate some sort of predator vision in his helmet, allowing him to see footprints and trails left behind. While this is the first time we've seen this feature on a Mandalorian helmet in canon or even Legends, the idea actually comes from the original concept design for the helmet of our very own Boba Fett. Originally, the antennae/eyepiece on Boba's helmet was noted as having the same ability with infrared/ultraviolet sensors.
I am Bloodhunder. You can call me Bloodhound.
Where are you going, Master? For a drink? Thank you.
When the Mandalorian arrives at the tavern to feed the child and find lodgings, the lady serving tables offers the Mandalorian a flagon of spotchka, a new word in the Star Wars universe. We find out later that spotchka is a beverage brewed using the blue krill. We see the krill harvested in the opening of the chapter. The krill glow the same blue as the drinks and vats seen in the Klatooinian camp, telling us that these raiders are using the krill for their own bootlegging microbrewery.
Champions, it's time we drink. Let's see how much black ale my replacement can put away.
Early in the episode, we see firsthand the devastation caused by the Klatooinian raiders as the farmers drop their harvest and hide. In the heat of the battle, Omera realizes that her daughter Winter is too close to the raiders and not able to run away in time. Omera runs back to retrieve her daughter, putting her own safety in jeopardy for the sake of her child. This is meant to tell us to associate Omera and the Mandalorian in our minds, forcing us to consider the similarities between them and foreshadowing the importance she will play in convincing the Mandalorian to stay and protect them. Furthermore, in the scene where Omera runs back to her daughter, she protects her child by hiding with her under the blanket in the water. The scene uses subtle imagery to draw our minds to the story of Moses, a baby who was protected from massacre when his mother hid him in a basket and placed it in the Nile. Just as Moses was instrumental in the salvation of his people, the woman hiding in the basket would ultimately prove to be the most influential factor in convincing the Mandalorian to be the salvation for her people. It's amazing how many sly religious stories, fables, and references are peppered throughout Star Wars stories.
Goodbye, brother.
Before The Mandalorian released, we were told that the story drew inspiration from many sources, but especially from the westerns of Clint Eastwood and samurai films. While the first 3 chapters really emphasized the western feel, this new edition feels more like a samurai movie, as a battle-hardened hero must protect a simple town of farmers and fight internally with the desire to leave his warrior ways behind and lead a peaceful life. However, that's not the only thing familiar about this episode. Longtime Star Wars fans, or fans who recently discovered the Clone Wars on Disney Plus, may recognize the main premise of this episode is one that we've seen before. In Season 2, Episode 17 of The Clone Wars, a team of bounty hunters must train a village of farmers to defend their harvest from pirates, led by the infamous Hondo Ohnaka. In both episodes, we see the bounty hunters training the villagers with weapons and leading them in battle against the raiders who seek to pillage their livelihood. Fun fact, the ship used by the bounty hunters in that episode even bears some visual resemblance to the Razor Crest.
I told you, we are not soldiers. We don't even have weapons.
The shaft is ray shielded, so you'll have to use proton torpedoes.
That's impossible, even for a computer.
But it's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters.
In the opening of the episode, the Mandalorian affectionately calls Baby Yoda Womp Rat. This is a reference all the way back to A New Hope, referring to the rodent creatures Luke used to bullseye in his T-16, and somewhat creepily brag about that when he meets the rebellion.
Oh, Biggs is right. I'm never gonna get out of here.
Also in the same scene, the Mandalorian refers to the planet of Sorgan as a real scug hole. The term scug is an insult used by the Zygarians, a race of technologically advanced slavers seen in Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Before we begin the auction, I would welcome a most special guest, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Must be some mistake. Can't possibly be disruptors in there, because they're illegal, right?
We've talked about the Mandalorian's weapon before, how its tuning fork design was derived from the holiday special, and its disintegrating properties being a callback to Darth Vader's instructions to Boba Fett. While many assumed the rifle was a disruptor, a weapon we already know was banned by the Empire according to Star Wars Rebels, the episode tells us that the rifle is actually called a pulse rifle. The pulse rifle was a weapon favored by bounty hunters in Legends and fired a series of microbursts of ion energy. They contained superconducting filaments which regulated the beam's hundreds of individual discharges into a single burst, thus resulting in the target's disintegration.
I like this thing.
Which way? All right, men, load your weapon.
This episode featured the smallest array of alien races to date. The raiders attacking the village were called Clatoonians, a race with surprisingly low screen time in Star Wars despite being around since Return of the Jedi. We've also seen the second Kabaz in the series, a bounty hunter of the same race as the spy in A New Hope, and the ferryman in Mandalorian Chapter 1. This episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, daughter of seasoned director and actor Ron Howard, most known for her acting work with roles in films such as Spider-Man 3 and the Jurassic World series. Favreau reportedly reached out to Howard because of her desire to go into directing, along with her interest in emergent technology. This chapter continues the series' focus on duty and parenthood, working efficiently to put us in the mind of its characters and give us a deeper understanding and sympathy towards them. With so many directors allowed to shine and give new perspective, fans continue to be comforted by the love and care shown to the source material, and as always, I'm excited to see where we're going next.